Hello, family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Makers Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing expert. His name is Rennie Gabriel. Did I say that correctly? I just wanted
Close
to make
enough.
sure.
I pronounce it more easily like Gabriel.
Gabriel. Okay. All right. So Rennie is amazing in our community. He has a heart of gold, and what he talks about is something that really should be on the parents' agenda and on their radar. Basically, it's really, really important. So Rennie, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be here, and audience members, thank you for being here. Can you tell a little bit more about what you do and why you do it, and then we can go from there.
Perfect. First of all, Dr. L, thank you for having me on the show. And what I do is I support parents, and it ends up being their children, how to handle money powerfully, and concepts that are 5,000 years old, concepts that the wealthy people use, because in reality, parents can't teach what they don't know, and children are not getting an education in the not getting a financial education in the school system.
Right.
Personally, I was going to say, personally, I struggled with money all my life. And even as a certified financial planner, I was not taught the basics of handling money powerfully, how to do an income and expense report, how to do a cash flow, how to balance a checkbook. None of those things are taught to financial professionals, including CPAs.
So in this particular example, well, first of all, let's go back to this. Given that background, what are some of the struggles that you typically see, other than the ones that we as adults have experienced with finances and checkbooks?
Yeah, well, it's really simple. As an example, the worst is people who are on a roller coaster of focusing on paying off credit card debt, and then something goes wrong and they have to use the credit card again. And that roller coaster continues year after year, decade after decade, and then they find themselves ready to retire and they have no assets that generate an income. Maybe they have, well, you know what? Let me put you on the spot, Dr. L. Can I do that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, let's say that you had no debt, no credit card debt, no mortgages, no auto loans, no debt at all. That's all I'm saying. Would you be able to stop working?
At this moment, yes, because I basically came out of retirement to do what I'm doing.
Well, wait a second. Hold on. I didn't say you had anything else to support yourself. I only said you have no debt. So what I'm hearing, though, is that you've got assets to generate an income for you.
Right.
I didn't say you had that. I just said you only have no debt. Now, put yourself in the position of having only no debt. Would you be able to stop working?
No.
Exactly. But people don't realize that. They think if I were just out of debt, I wouldn't have to work. I'd have financial freedom. And that's patently false.
That's a very important and subtle point. So thank you for actually bringing that up. So yes.
Yeah. And all I'm getting at is, unless we treat ourselves like we matter by setting aside money that we can invest, money that we will keep forever, without doing that, when it comes time when we want a choice of working or not working, we don't have it unless we've set aside money that produce assets that produce an income.
Right. Absolutely. Beautifully said. And unfortunately for too many people, that realization comes too little too late, basically.
Fortunately, I figured it out when I was 50. So I still had some time left.
So let's go back and do it when it's fun. So what's the age group that this is something that should be taught? Because our school system doesn't seem like minors need to learn about these things.
Yeah, I think a good age is in high school. If not high school, then at least college, because that's where students are inundated with the idea that they could have credit cards, like it's free money, not that it's debt. There's no instructions on how to properly use it or how to pay off the card, or only charge what you can pay off at the end of the month. None of that information is provided other than here's a $5,000 credit card. Go have a good time.
Yep, absolutely. And so for parents that themselves are struggling with finances, how can they go about and identify, first of all, the fact that this needs to be taught to the kids and learn it for themselves, but also teach the kids or help the kids learn it as well?
That's exactly what the purpose of my book is all about. It's to teach the parents so that they can be an example for the children and teach the children.
Yes.
I have grandparents who end up going through the material and then providing it to their grandchildren. They feel they've missed the boat with their children, but they haven't really. And the way the book is designed is the first third of it are the emotional things, the blocks that are in the way of actually putting into place the tips and techniques that I suggest. Let me put you on the spot again. Can I do that?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Al. Let's say, no, let me ask you this. Do you know anyone who is morbidly obese?
Yes.
Okay. Would you guess that they know how to lose weight?
True.
Okay. What are the common two things that people talk about to lose weight?
Eat healthier and exercise more.
Yeah, it's not complicated. And like you said, you figure they know that, but knowing it does nothing, because if there are emotional things in the way, what they know is never going to be put into practice.
Correct.
And it's the same thing with money. And so the first third of the book is to get at what are those emotional blocks and how we overcome them. And then I talk about how you do an income and expense report, or how you save for the future, or how you pay yourself first. So we deal with that first.
So actually, you mentioned something that is really important from a neurology perspective. Oftentimes we think of us humans as logical, rational beings, but the reality is we are emotional creatures, and our amazing brains looks in the universe for proof of why we feel the way that we did, and that becomes our confirmation bias.
Exactly. Absolutely right. Our brain is a goal achieving machine. And if you give it the wrong things to look for, it will find it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So given the information that is at their disposal, what would be a good place to start? Both as far as starting this dialogue for the kids and also for the parents to recognize that, hey, we need to do things differently. So what are some of the things that would be like, oh, this is a Rennie issue. I need to connect with Rennie and figure out how to address the situation?
Okay, I'll give you an instruction, but not necessarily tell you how to do it. And here's what I've discovered after working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Simple rule of thumb in handling money in a household situation. 10% gets set aside to keep forever. That's a 5,000-year-old rule. 10% gets set aside to spend later when something goes wrong, so you don't have to go back to the credit card or borrow money, which means any household, any family, any individual that lives on 80% of their income will have no problems. The how is what's missing, but the formula is just live on 80%, set aside 10 to spend later, set aside 10 to keep forever. And that's the money that gets invested. That's the money so that you end up with a choice of working or a choice of not working.
Right. And then once you take the emotional stuff out, then you can actually apply this 80%.
Exactly.
Awesome. Very cool. So what would be the one tip for our audience members as far as watching this they would do? Do they just go and set aside the 20%, or how do you go about creating this?
Well, I'll have to say that even though my book is great, it can't do two vital things that are required. And one of them is, if someone has faulty thinking, if their emotions are in the way, the book cannot interrupt faulty thinking.
Mhm.
That's one thing the book can't do, no matter how good it is. Second thing it can't do is it can't hold you accountable for what you said you were going to do.
Absolutely.
And what I'm getting at is that requires a person, and it doesn't have to be me. It could be a coworker, it could be a spouse, it could be a relative, it could be a neighbor. The key is that I've discovered is wealth creation. It actually doesn't matter if it's a wealth or business or family relationships.
Mhm.
It's a team sport, not a solo sport. People who attempt to work on this by themselves, 95% of the cases will fail.
Actually, Rennie, you just mentioned something that I have personally experienced in my life. I have known people in my family that literally they never discussed money out in the open. They never discussed it with the kids. It was a matter that was done behind closed doors or privately decided on. So that not only puts the pressure and the stress on one person, but that also disconnects the rest of the family from making that decision. So I really appreciated that you brought up this whole team effort thing with money, and kids love to be part of a team. So that's a great way to engage them in the process. So thank you for that.
Exactly. I
Huge.
mean, people want to feel included.
Right. Absolutely. So, given that time is short, what would be the best way for people to connect with you and find out more? And I know that you have a heart of gold and you do so much for the community. So, tell us a little bit more about your programs, how people can connect with you and gain some extra support.
The easiest thing is to go to my website, which is wealthonanyincome.com. They could see a donate button for animal and veteran charities that I donate to. And if they make a donation to the charity, they can get a copy of my book for free. If they don't want to do that, they can just buy the book and 100% of the profits go to animal and veteran charities. So that's the easiest thing to do. And if they add a /TEDx to wealthonanyincome.com, they can see my TEDx talk where I talk about how we have been programmed to believe it's better to be poor than to be wealthy. And they can get a 9-step roadmap, which is the cure to that false message.
Powerful, powerful. So guys, I will be putting all of that information. It's a wealth of knowledge there. So definitely go check it out. It's going to be in the description of this video. But by doing that, it's not just about getting more information. As we said, we all know what we need to do to lose weight. There's other factors that go into it. Some of that requires support. Some of that requires accountability, like Rennie said. So role model the behavior for your kids that it is okay not to have all the answers. It is okay to reach out for support. And there are people in the world that have our interest and our best interest at heart and want to support us, so that the kids figure out that this is actually a friendly world that has everything that they need to live fulfilled and full lives and happy lives, basically. And it's okay to reach out and connect. So, Rennie, thank you so much for everything that you do, guys. If you haven't already done so, click subscribe. Make sure that you get notified of all of our guests that show up on this channel, sharing their expertise and gifts and passions like Rennie did. And you get notified of those. And Rennie, any final words of wisdom for our audience members before we finish today?
Just that as long as we treat ourselves like we matter and we set aside money, pay ourselves first, things will work out and our lives will be transformed.
Well said. Well said. I appreciate it. Money is not the root of all evil. Come on, people. Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks, Rennie. Cheers.
Thank you, Dr. Al. Bye-bye.